So, I got a bunch of inheritance recently, and now my girlfriend's family is basically treating me like a lottery winning. I feel horrible about this whole situation, so let me just tell you what I decided to do. Where do I even begin? I'm so lost right now, I don't even know how to put things into words or find a good starting point. I guess it goes with about 2 months ago. My life was exactly where I wanted it to be. I've been with the girl of my dreams for the last 3.5 years. We have a house, animals. Both of our families get along beautifully, and honestly, the last 3 years with her and my family and her family around the holidays have been some of the most warm, fuzzy memories I've had in my entire life. And believe me, I've been thinking about those times a lot lately. So, like I said, this problem is going to come in parts because my entire life feels like it's on the brink of completely failing apart. My mother was a very wealthy woman. Most of my life, she and I did not get along very well. But I started working in the family business roughly 5 years ago, and since then, we've actually developed a great relationship. It was one of those things where, after many years of feeling that my mother hated me, she was at last proud of me and not afraid to say she loved me and valued me. Then, last month in mid-March, she passed away. I'm tearing up thinking about this as I type this out because I've always felt that, despite her resentment towards me in my early years, I loved my mother more than anyone else in the world. I just won't say much more than that. She had a hard life in spite of her wealth, and I feel I could write a whole book on our relationship. Anyways, she's gone and my siblings and I are now extremely wealthy and have taken possession of the business and all her investments and property. If that's not scary enough, I'm having a hard time figuring out what I need to do next. The business I was associated with, I can handle, and my siblings and I have really come together on this. They seem to trust me with that part of it. But it doesn't wash away the hurt and guilt I feel that I only got a few good years with the woman who gave me life. Anyways, my plan is to marry my girlfriend by next year. We've already discussed the prenup situation, which I'll be getting due to my newfound wealth. She's been nothing but wonderful after my mom's death. But the problem comes in her family. I won't go into much detail, but I love these people. Like an extension of my own family. But they have already started trying to pry exactly how wealthy I am out of my girlfriend, and her mom has always had a gravitational pull towards, for a lack of better term, pyramid schemes. So, her first sibling, Terry, just got married and is working a fast food job. Terry and his wife have decided that they'll be starting a family soon, and stated that they want wifey to be a stay-at-home mother. This talk has only recently popped up and been brought up to my attention, and well, I feel like I'm being paranoid. It's been directed at me as there is absolutely no way they'd be able to afford this on the money that they currently make. Or even living while in a small apartment. Like, they're expecting me to just help them out in a situation they're wholly unable to handle right now. Sibling number 2, Leslie, has run into some pretty serious legal trouble and is also pregnant. The father has a history of abuse. Neither have steady incomes. They've recently come back into their lives after a 4-year-long absence between girlfriend and Leslie. Though, prior to this, the two have always been extremely close. As girlfriend with all of her siblings, as throughout their childhood, a lot of the time, all they had was each other. Sibling number 3, Casey, who I hardly ever speak to, has even started chatting me up on Facebook more than she ever has the entire time I've known her. Is this just my brain devolving into paranoia, or is this actually happening? Like the lottery horror stories you hear, where people come out of the woodwork with their hands out when they smell money on someone they know. Well, I know for a fact my mother, for all of her faults, fell victim to this when she inherited this money. She became increasingly bitter throughout her life due to all of the husbands and friends that took advantage of her for what she could do for them. She drank herself stupid every day for over 30 years and moved through carton after carton of cigarettes. alienating her own children. I don't want to be like that. I don't want that to happen. It's been less than a month and I've had more money than I know what to do with. I'm afraid to spend a dime or do anything with it because I feel like my girlfriend's family is only the beginning. What's worse, and will probably make me look like a total craphead, my girlfriend has already committed to helping Leslie. They were close their whole life, and with all the legal trouble in pregnancy, girlfriend cries at night thinking about what's happening to her. She's not asked me to help financially or anything, but I've been there every step of the way to help support them, and her as best as I can. But how will it look when my girlfriend starts just giving out her money to people while I don't, and gets viewed as a selfish Scrooge? All of this is just too much. The last 3 years were just so wonderful. So many magical trips to the beach, wonderful holidays, surrounded by not one but 2 families full of great people that accepted and loved me, and now it seems like, because I lost my mother and I'm getting a windfall because of it. Everything's changing. I don't get to be happy with family anymore, and my whole life is crashing because of this. I know this is so far beyond a first world problem. Poor baby is now a multi-millionaire, and this little sad he can't have a very happy Christmas. Wah. But I just feel so broken. I miss you, Mom. I don't sleep at all, I hardly eat, and despite knowing full well the path my mother went down, I've been drinking a bit and smoking weed, more than I ever have on a daily basis. My siblings seem to be coping just fine. Now, I feel like everyone's out to get me. Even my girlfriend's getting a little tired of hearing me voice my concerns over girlfriend siblings 1, 2, and 3, and her mom's sudden extra interest in me. Which, I guess is understandable. They're all very close and take up for one another. Now, I'm even doubting myself, and thinking it's all in my head. Maybe too many times my mother, I don't know, drunkenly told me all about the time she trusted people and was let down. I'm just so lost. What's up, guys? Mr. Reddito here. This story is super intense. So, the OP of this story posted in the comment section a whole nother thread, and it's advice. If you win the lottery, how to go about handling that. It also has a similar situation story that is absolutely crazy. So we're going to read that post now. It says, "Congratulations, you just won millions of dollars in the lottery. That's great. Now you're ducked." No, really, you are. You're ducked. If you just want to skip the graphical tales of woes of some of the math tax protagonists, skip on down to the next comment to see what to do in the event you win the lottery. You see, it's something of an open secret that winners of obnoxiously large jackpots tend to end up badly with alarming regularity. Not the $1 million winners, no. But anyone in the 9-figure range is at high risk. 8 figures, pretty likely to be screwed. 7 figures? Yeah, painful. Perhaps this is a consequence of the sample. The demographics of a lottery players might be exactly the wrong people to win large sums of money. Or perhaps money is the root of all evil. Either way, you're going to have to be careful. Don't believe me? Consider this. Large jackpot winners face double-digit multiples of probability versus the general population to be the victim of homicide, 20x more likely, drug overdose, bankruptcy, kidnapping, and triple digits of probability for convicted of drunk driving, victim of homicide, a defendant in a civil lawsuit, and a defendant in a felony criminal proceeding. Believe it or not, your biggest enemy is you. Suddenly become more possessed of large sums of money. At least you will have the consolation of meeting your fate by your own hand. But if you can't manage it on your own, don't worry. There are a number of willing participants ready to help you start your vicious downward spiral. Mind you, many of these will be, quote, friends, friendly neighbors, or family. Often they won't even have evil intentions, but as I'm sure you know, that makes little difference in the end. Most aren't evil. Most aren't malicious. Some are. None are good for you, though. Jack Whitaker, a Johnny Cash-attired West Virginia native, is the poster boy for the dangers of lump sums awarded. In 2002, Mr. Whitaker, 55 years old at the time, won what was, also at the time, the largest single awarded jackpot in U.S. history, $315 million. At the time, he planned to live as nothing had changed, or so he said. He was remarkably modest and decent before the jackpot, and his ship sure came in, right? Wrong. Mr. Whitaker became the subject of a number of personal challenges, escalating into personal tragedies, complicated by a number of legal issues. Whitaker wasn't a typical lottery winner either. His net worth at the time of his winnings was in the excess of $15 million, owing it to his ownership of a successful contracting firm in West Virginia. His claim to want to live, quote, as if nothing had changed actually seemed plausible. He should have been well equipped for wealth. He was already quite wealthy after all. By all accounts, he was somewhat modest though. Low profile, generous, and good-natured. He should have coasted off into the sunset. Yeah, not exactly. Whitaker took the all-cash option, 170 million smackaroos, instead of the annuity option, and took possession of 114 million in cash, after Uncle Sam took 56 million in taxes. After that, things went south. Whitaker quickly became the subject of a number of financial stalkers who would lurk at his regular breakfast hideout, accost him with suggestions for how to spend his money. They were unemployed. No, an interview tomorrow morning wasn't good enough. They needed cash now. Perhaps they had a surefire business plan. Their daughter had cancer. A niece needed dialysis. Needless to say, Whitaker stopped going to his breakfast haunt. Eventually, they began ringing his doorbell, sometimes in the wee hours of the morning. Before long, he was paying off duty deputies to protect his family. He was accused of being heartless, cold, and stingy. Letters poured in. Children with cancer, diabetes, MS, you name it. He hired 3 people to sort the mail, a detective to filter out false claims, and con men, and women, was retained. Brenda, the clerk who had sold Whitaker the ticket, was a victim of collateral damage. Whitaker had written her a check for $44,000 and bought her a house, but she was by no means a millionaire. Rumors that the state routinely paid the clerk who sold the ticket 10% of the jackpot winnings hounded her. She was followed home from work, threatened, and assaulted. Whitaker's car was twice broken into by trusted acquaintances who watched him leave large amounts of cash in it. We're talking $500,000 and $200,000 in 2 separate instances. The thieves spiked Whitaker's drink with prescription drugs in the first instance. The second incident was the handiwork of his granddaughter's friend, who had been probing the girl for details on Whitaker's cash for weeks. Even Whitaker's good faith, generosity, was questioned when he offered $10,000 to improve the city's water park so it was more handicap accessible. Locals complained that he spent more money at the strip club. Amusingly, this was true. Whitaker invested quite a bit in his own business, tripled the number of people in his business employed, making him one of the larger employers in the area, and eventually had given away $14 million to charity through a foundation he set up on purpose. This, of course, what you're supposed to do. Set up a foundation. Be careful about your charity giving. It makes no difference in the end. To top it all off, Whitaker had been accused of ruining a number of marriages. His money made other men look inferior, they said, wherever he went in the small West Virginia town he called home. Resentment grew quickly and festered. Whitaker paid 4 settlements related to this sort of claim. Yeah, you read that right. 4. His family and their immediate circle were quickly the victims of odds-defying numbers of overdoses, emergency room visits, and heck, even fatalities. His granddaughter, the 18-year-old Brandy, who Whitaker had been giving $2,100 a week in allowance, was found dead after being missing for several weeks. Her death was apparently from a drug overdose, but Whitaker suspected foul play. Her body had been wrapped in a tarp and hidden behind a rusted-out van. Her 17-year-old boyfriend had expired 3 months earlier in Whitaker's vacation home. Also, overdose. Some of his friends had robbed the house after this overdose. stepping over his cold dead body to make their escape, and returning for more before stepping over his body again to leave. His parents sued for wrongful death, claiming that Whitaker's loose purse strings contributed to their son's death. Amazingly, juries are prone to reward damages in cases such as these. Whitaker settled again. Even before the death, the local and state police had taken a special interest in Whitaker after his newfound fame. He was arrested for minor and less minor offenses many times after these winnings, despite having a nearly spotless record before the award. Whitaker's high profile could not have helped him in much of this regard. In 18 months, Whitaker had been cited for over 250 violations, ranging from broken taillights on every one of his new 5 cars, improper display of renewal stickers, a lawsuit charging various police organizations with harassment went nowhere, and Whitaker was with his court costs instead. Whitaker's wife filed for divorce, and the process froze a number of his assets and the accounts of his operating companies. Caesars and Atlantic City sued him for $1.5 million to cover bounced checks caused by asset freeze. Today, Whitaker is badly in debt, and bankruptcy looms large in his future. But hey, that's just one example, right? Wrong. Nearly 1/3 of multi-million-dollar jackpot winners eventually declare bankruptcy. Some end up worse. To give you just a taste of the possibilities, consider the fates of these people. Billy Bob Harrell Jr., $31 million, Texas 1997, suicide. William Post, $16.2 million, Pennsylvania 1988. Brother hires a contract murderer to kill him and his 6th wife. Landlady sued for the portion of the jackpot, convicted to assault for firing a gun at a debt collector. Declared bankruptcy, dead, 2006. Evelyn Adams, $5.4 million. She won twice, 1985, 1986. As of 2001, poor and living in a trailer, gave away and gambled all her fortune. Suzanne Mullins, 4.2, Virginia. No assets left. I could go on, but it seems the root of all evil is indeed money. That was a crazy story and an insane scenario. Guys, I do believe money's the root of all evil. Let me know in your experience a time where maybe money wasn't as good as it seemed. Drop your thoughts about this one in the comment section. Thank you so much for tuning in. That's all the stories I have for you today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out the other channels too that you can find in the description below. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one.